being so passionate about women and elevating women, wanting them to see them rise and have more money and influence and power in the world, the business world was created by men for men, right? And men's bodies work on a 24-hour clock. So they spend their energy and recharge every 24 hours and away they go. And that's how the business world was developed. But women's bodies, we operate on a 28-day cycle. So that's, that was important for us to help women understand and help them engineer their businesses around that, because, it's okay to have a day where you just feel slow and you just want to take some time for you. You don't have to be pushing and hustling the same way a man might hustle on the daily. And then there will be other days where it is a masculine phase. You are feeling more energy, more fired up, and you can get way more accomplished on that day and feel good about it. So it was really about reverse engineering what women want and allowing them to step into their divine feminine and be able to sell really authentically.
I'm Autumn Bensett, founder of the Bossy Babe brand, fitness coach, and serial entrepreneur turned intuitive life and business coach. The Wealthy Babe podcast is for the ambitious, courageous, and spiritually charged up woman in network marketing, craving wealth not only in her bank account, but in every aspect of her life. Get plugged in here each week for authentic and unfiltered conversations from myself and industry leaders who are going to support you and give you all the juicy behind the scenes and real talk around business, spirituality, strong points of view, and doing shit differently. This is a safe space to come undone, be heard, and be given permission to rewrite your own damn rules. So here we go. Hello, and welcome back to the Wealthy Babe podcast. You are listening to episode 45. And as you've probably already seen and heard a little snippet, I'm really, really excited about the conversation you're about to hear today. I had the greatest and most beautiful pleasure of being able to share space and interview and have the Luscious Hustle women, babes, powerhouses. If you don't already know their brand, you are about to. I had them, Laura and Betsy Milne, on the podcast, and we had such an epic conversation, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear more about who they are, what they do, and everything that we jammed out about. This conversation was super organic, super beautiful, and we are really talking about what the entrepreneur roller coaster really looks like and what it actually is behind the scenes and what it looks like to launch and be in alignment with your business and aligning that with the lunar cycles and podcasting and what it also looks like to heal others while you're healing yourself. And these are just some incredible topics and conversations and things that we really dive into and get super real and raw about. And these are definitely things that on some level, not everyone is talking about in the online space, and not every single person is getting really raw with what's actually happening behind the scenes of a business on a day-to-day basis, and actually being able to look into what it takes to create a six-figure income and sales and generate that level of service in the world. And it looks sometimes very, very perfect out front, right? We get that highlight reel of what people are doing. We see it on Instagram. And this is where I wanted to dive in with so many other experts, including Laura and Betsy. So then you can also get a real behind the scenes and look into what it takes and what it's like and be able to hopefully see yourself in them and in me and in us as a collective and know that you are supported here and you are not alone. So I'm really, really excited. I'm going to just intro them super quick so then you have a good idea on who they are before we even get started in this episode. They are transformational business and branding coaches who are on a mission to empower women with the tools and motivation needed to turn a spark of an idea into a full-fledged business and sought-after brand. They are born from the ashes of burnout. Luscious Hustle was created to redefine what it means to hustle as an online entrepreneur. In less than a year, they harnessed their passion to build a six-figure business that supported the lifestyle and time freedom that they craved. Through their signature courses and a high-touch coaching program, Betsy and Laura teach women how to monetize and manifest their dream business and luscious life through proven business strategies and spiritual support. Oh my gosh, you guys, if you're not already fired up, you're about to be. I can't wait. I hope you enjoy this episode. And as always, if you find this powerful and helpful, please, please, please share this and post it and tag the people and the women that you love and you care about so they can also get more of this information and guidance and support for absolutely free. So then they can also have the transformations and the breakthroughs and the support that they're also craving in their life and in their business. And it also is just a beautiful signal and sign to the universe that you are all the way in and that you're here and ready to go and that you are in alignment and craving and taking action towards the life that you desire. So I'm so excited. I hope that you guys absolutely love this episode and let's do it. You guys, I have Laura and Betsy Milne from the Luscious Hustle podcast with me today. And I'm jazzed the fuck up. I was just telling them that I have been binge listening to their podcast. And I just dig your guys' vibe and just the work that you both are doing in this world, especially together as a team like that. I find it so rare and you don't see it so often. So just seeing like those two forces come together and create this incredible brand is so beautiful. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm like fangirling a little bit over here recording with you guys. So I'm going to try to remain cool. But thank you so much for just being here and sharing your energy with us and with me today and all of our listeners. And I'm just so excited. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
We're going to have fun.
We're very excited.
We're going to have fun. So, okay, let's just jump right in. And for all of the babes and all of the women that are listening and they're like, who are these amazing women? Who are Laura and Betsy and what is Luscious Hustle?
Oh my God, that's a big question.
That's a loaded question. You know what? It's funny because we share the same last name, but we're not related. So Laura and Betsy are two complete strangers that met on Instagram. Laura slid into my DMs way back in 2016. Right? Like 3 years ago. Oh my God. We're like old friends now. Yeah. And we just immediately hit it off. And this is back in the days, like it took me 2 weeks to find the DM to go back to her to respond because I just had no clue where to find her. I was like, oh, what's that red dot? And then I read it and I was like, well, where do those live? So it was like really Laura was always a baller when it came to Insta and like getting in there and sliding into DMs. And so we struck up a friendship. And I think that that's the true testament. And that's the lesson that we like to keep sharing. It's like you guys can meet on Instagram and have a connection and take that and turn that into something that is incredibly special, that is a collaboration, not a competition, that allows you to live your purpose in harmony with somebody else and really elevate the globe. Mm-hmm. I say that like that's a bold statement, but I feel like that's truly our mission is just to elevate everyone around us and help raise the consciousness of the entire planet because it's just fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Laura, you can explain how the business evolved. I just talked about like we have a soul contract.
We do. We have a soul contract. Yeah. There's like a lot of really weird similarities, links, connections. I mean, I'm from Calgary, Alberta. Born and raised here. Like Betsy, like is originally Canadian, but grew up in New Jersey. Like we've had very different lives, very different backgrounds. But yeah, we do have a soul contract. And so the universe threw us together via Instagram. And so we started building this business. We actually, it's like what we've been talking about lately a lot on social is just like taking messy action and not second guessing yourself. So I slid into Betsy's DMs in like early 2016, mid 2016. I was originally building a network marketing business then. Betsy was building her health coaching business, and she was on my team because she was using it as a product partner, all the good stuff. We started becoming friends. And then Betsy literally like called me one day on the way back from New York City, right around Christmas time, and said, like, I really want to start a podcast. Like, I can't think of anyone else I would want to start it with. I just want to have really interesting conversations with women. I want to like be in community with women who are doing baller things, who are smart and savvy and intelligent. And I want to just elevate the kinds of conversations that we're having. And I said, sure, great. And she said, do you have any idea how to start a podcast? Like, nope, I don't even listen to podcasts. It's 2016. Like, and so we came up with the idea and literally launched it 2 weeks later on January 4th, 2017. So like really hot, messy action. No freaking clue. We made, I'm using air quotes, like we made mistakes, lots of mistakes along the way. If we were to launch a podcast now, we would probably do it way differently than we did then. But I'm so grateful that we did it because we just got out of our own way and we had enough of like our blinders on that we didn't compare ourselves. And also podcasting was actually still very different. It was very different then. Like early 2017, there were a lot of big names in business who still didn't have podcasts. It wasn't until like almost a year later that like end of 2017, early 2018, that things really blew up. So we're like a little bit ahead there. So we built the podcast, built our audience. There was no business for the entire first year. It was just all about like community, making connections, getting ourselves in the room, so to speak, via the podcast with other women who inspired us and were doing big things. And, our podcast was not niched at the beginning. There was no fucking niche, man. Oh, am I allowed to swear?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, there was no niche. We were Luscious Living podcast at that time. And so we were kind of talking about a mix of like health and wellness and mindset. But there was very quickly a thread that was running through every single episode. And that was that all of the women we were interviewing were building side hustles, or they had built a side hustle and turned it into a full-fledged business. And, little Miss Betsy built, she used to be in business. She used to work in New York in the fashion district, and she built multi-million-dollar accounts. And so she knew business, even though she was like really set on being a health coach, like, really her expertise is in building business. And I was building my entire network marketing business through social media. I was not having house parties. I was not hitting up grandma for the easy order, the low hanging fruit. I was not doing that. So we kind of combined forces, and we launched our first program, which back then was Luscious Hustle Academy, at the end of 2017, early 2018. And then, so we've really only been in business for like 18 months, and just so much has grown so fast. We rebranded to Luscious Hustle, because, Luscious is the lifestyle. It's the feminine. It's that pleasurable feeling you want to have in your life. And the hustle is, the more masculine, the action taking, right? You need a harmony of both. And that's what we were really seeing that was working in our business. Or not working in the beginning. We were all hustle in the beginning, and we needed more luscious. So we adopted a word that we actually grew into and learned how to build a business around that.
Yeah.
I think I wrote down like 1,000 things, and I'm like, where do we even go with this? Because this is just, oh my God, like this is so good. You guys are absolutely just incredible. I'm just blown away by your story and where you guys have gone and taken your business. And just, I think more than anything too, it's like your mindset and your vision around everything. Like so many people nowadays, it's, I want to do this. I want to make money. I want to be successful. I want to get these things. And it's very like driven into like thinking that there's going to be this feeling when, you get there, and achieving this lifestyle and this vision and this, thing you see on Instagram. And what I love that you spoke to is, we didn't even have a business, like for how long? And I was going to ask you that. So I love that you spoke to that already. It's like, we didn't even have a course. We didn't have anything. We started this podcast. And I think like I have a lot of clients that come in and they do the things, and I feel like they wait, because I was the same way, as like they wait to do this podcast. Like, I should be here. I should have these credentials. I should have these things under my belt. I should have sold this many this many programs, or I should have this many clients before I'm qualified to start talking and speaking to these and on these topics, or getting connected with big names and people that I admire and look up to, and I'm inspired by. So I don't know if you guys can maybe speak on this for a little bit and gem out on this. Is like, as you're talking messy action, I smiled there because I'm like, that is so, like, if there's like one motto that I have, it's just like messy fucking action, 100%. I used to actually have cups when I first started my coaching business. I said like my one-on-ones back then, like I used to make t-shirts out of my home, and I had like a Cricut. So I made mugs, and right on the back I had messy fucking action. And that was like something I live so true by, because there really is like no end goal. Like there's nowhere that you get where you're not going to be kind of tweaking what's working and what's not working for you. So let's just, I'm speaking myself in a circle, but can we like talk a little bit to these women that are like, I want to have a fucking podcast too, and I want to do these big things, but I don't have a program, and I don't have a business, and I'm not making money in this space yet. I'm not doing this. Like, I guess I don't even know what the question is. It's like, can we just speak to them and have a conversation for these women that need to take messy action?
For sure. Yeah. I think it's a really important conversation to have. And I think if you look back at how Laura and I grew the business, it was never a business in the beginning. So number one, we went with our passion, right? It was a passion project. It was on the side. Looking back at the beginning, I was really, really insecure when we started. Like I had some past trauma that I was dealing with. So I didn't want to be on camera. I wouldn't take pictures of myself. But yet in the back of my mind, I was like, you know what? I need to be doing this. Like, what can I do to start moving the needle forward? And the only thing I had at that point was my voice. And for the first 6 months, Laura was running our Instagram account and she was doing an incredible job, but she would be like, dude, you need to send me one freaking selfie because nobody believes that you exist. And I could barely put my face in front of a camera. Now, if you look at our feed and if you look at my personal Instagram feed, I mean, it's basically my face. And I'm like, dude, when are people going to stop wanting to look at my face? Because it's crazy. But that was the transformation. So at the beginning, everything that you're speaking to, I experienced. I'm a health coach, but I'm a newbie health coach. So who's going to listen to me? I had all the credentials. I was a personal trainer. When we started talking about business, that was the thing that lit me up. I went to art school, which is a mindfuck in and of itself. But then I had started my first business at 24. It closed up within a year. And I literally manifested a job in New York City that I worked at for 12 years, where I traveled the world. I set up factories. I built $1 million accounts on literally 50-cent belts. So you can imagine the numbers that I was moving. And when it came to being a business coach, everyone was coming to me, asking me these questions, and I knew the answers, but I was like, well, I'm not a business coach. I don't want to talk about it. So there's always fear, right? The only way that we get through that fear is if we take messy action. That's it. Because you just need to prove to yourself that you can do it once, and then you can move in that direction. I will never forget really early on what literally was the life-changing moment for me to be a business coach is I did a 30-minute free Zoom call for a testimonial. And we went in and we were talking, and her testimonial was, Betsy is the Mary Poppins of business. She just has a bag of tricks. It doesn't matter what you ask her, she can point you in the right direction. And in that moment, I was like, oh, okay. So everything Laura's saying to me about being a business coach, maybe I should pay attention and start leaning into it. And it still took me a couple months to really get my feet underneath me. But I think messy action is when you stop circling the drain of what could go right, what could go wrong, what could go right, what could go wrong. And then you just start moving forward instead of circling down the drain. I'm doing hand actions. You can't see.
The only thing that I would add to that is part of the circling the drain thing that happens with new entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, is not just what could go right or wrong, but they get stuck on how. But how? I don't know how to do that. So they have this really big pie in the sky vision of what they want to, all the millions of dollars they want to have in this big business and all these clients and other things. And then they'll be like, oh, but I don't have a podcast. Oh, but you have the great big vision. Oh, but I don't have enough of this. I don't have of that. And so they're trying to tether that big dream down to like this tiny little pool of resources that they currently have, and then trying to make a decision out of that tiny little pool of lack. And then that's where the worry about the how comes from. You're like, oh, but I don't know how to do that. Well, like as Marie Forleo would say, like everything is figure outable. If it's been done in the world, then it can be done again by you and in your own way and maybe better. So don't fuss with that. Don't fuss with 10 steps from now. Fuss with the next step. What is the next step you're going to take? And, you know, we work with our students really, really heavily on becoming who you need to be that, to achieve that higher level vision. You have to become her first and make decisions from that place, because otherwise you'll be stuck on like, oh, well, I don't have a website. Oh, well, I don't have 10,000 followers on Instagram. Oh, well, I don't have, but how, like, stop it. It's not your job to know the how. It's just not.
Yeah.
That's why you hire a coach. Like, I know the how. Come to me and then we'll have a conversation about this, but like, don't spin in the how. That's silly. You will get stuck there forever.
Oh, so good. I just feel like I'm like with my people right now. I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I believe. It's so awesome just to hear it, because it's like, yeah, it's like this validation. I hope that, you know, other people who are listening to are like, okay, yeah, this makes so much sense. So would you say, like, from your perspective, was it the starting the podcast, doing the first episode? Was it just like doing the recording? Was it, you know, doing that first 30-minute call that allowed you to kind of step through that bit with that courageousness and be like, okay, now I've arrived. Like, now I'm fucking here. Now I am ready to serve. Now I'm ready to like own this power. Was it like one of those, or was it maybe like the compounded amount of episodes? Or
yeah, it took like a year. I was gonna say it was a slow burn.
Yeah. We're not good at celebrating. Like that's one of the biggest lessons that we've had to learn in our business. It's like last summer around this time, I remember we were sitting in a bar and I was like, how much money have we made? And we had to like literally do the math, and we were like, oh, we've made 50K since January. And we were like, oh, okay. So yeah, maybe we can hit 100,000 by the end of the year. And then, you know, like we hit 100K and it was kind of like we sat there and we didn't realize it for a while. And it's the same thing. Like our first year in business, we hit 100K. This year, we're like halfway through the year. We've already hit multiple hundreds, you know, like, so it's like, you know, it's when you sit down and you have those moments, I always am like, well, Laura, you're the money chick. You're supposed to tell me. Like, but it's learning how to, you know, it's like, what is arriving? You know, like, how do you define arriving? And I think for a long time, it was like, if we did this, then we would feel like we arrived. But we learned really early on, once you hit that, you're like, I don't know. It's like, I knew this before. I didn't need the number to tell me that I had arrived. And now it's just fun. It's like, now it's like you challenge yourself. Like, what can we do next? But I don't know. I was afraid for the whole first year. Like, no lie. I was like,
I would say that, well, I mean, Betsy had some really significant traumas to work through. And I think that is actually another really big lesson to pull from. I mean, I was not in a great place personally either. We both had, so Betsy was broke when we started. That's another thing. She didn't even have a bank account. She was so broke.
I couldn't afford the monthly fee to keep $5 in my bank account. Like, I couldn't even afford for the whole first year.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, trauma, brokenness, Laura, like my human design is generator. So I was generating way too much. I was way, way, way far in the workaholic because I was a mom. I was doing a lot of the momming on my own. I was struggling in my marriage. I was building this business, but then also like picking up shifts, like night shifts to like help pay the bills. So I was basically worked like 7 days a week for 18 months, probably a year and a half to 2 years I worked. So, you know, it's like so time was my issue. Basically, I didn't have enough time and she didn't have any money, but we joined forces and pooled what little resources we had, dug ourselves out of a very, very deep fucking hole. Right. Like, how do you, I mean, and like Betsy's story before, she would not take a fucking selfie. Save her life. Right. And also we live 3,000 miles apart. So it's not like it's easy to get pictures together. Like that's, you know, so I think that really being resourceful and like do what you can with what you have right now and just keep inching. You have to take that action in the immediate, in the micro, And in the macro, you have to always be having your eye on that 30,000 foot view of like, what am I meant to do in this world? What transformation am I creating for people? And let that intuition be your guide so that you don't get caught up in obsessing about the external things that you think you need in your business. So, we've gone down that road. We experimented with Facebook ads for about a month, and then we were like, fuck that. Like, that is a waste of money, right? We were pushed Pinterest for a couple of months, and like, yeah, we got, I think we were at like 2 million or some monthly views on Pinterest, and like, great. But like, it didn't end up creating quite the result that we wanted. Like, it was cool and we could have kept going with it, but it's, you can't put all your energy in all the pots. You have to pick what feels right to you and then take those resources and move forward with that. And, as far as the 30,000 foot view piece, I mean, Betsy's goal when she was a health coach was like, I'm going to heal myself, like through healing others. Like it's going to happen simultaneously. And that's absolutely what's happened in our business. She didn't have to wait to start a business, or she didn't have to get healed and then start a business. The two things happen simultaneously. And then for me, it's like, I believe I'm a social change maker, and I feel like it is my purpose in the world to help women step into their power and have more money and live that out. And so, for me, it was like, okay, I had to keep that vision in mind when it came to making decisions on the daily basis and not forget that, because it's so easy in the online space to get distracted and caught up in what all the other shit everybody else is doing. And I saw you just rebranded. It looks beautiful, right? And I'm like, oh my God, she rebranded. Maybe I want to rebrand. I'm like, no, stop it, Laura.
I feel
your colors are fine. Like, leave it alone. But it's so easy. It happens to all of us. So you have to really keep focused on like, what is your purpose in the world? What are we doing? And then go from there.
Yeah.
That was, I resonate so strong with this, especially like that last part, well, all of it, but especially that last part when you're bringing up like this FOMO, almost like we're so closely knitted to like so many other people. And we're like, well, you're doing that and you're doing that. And this is how, if I get myself too far into Instagram stories, next thing you know, I have how many programs that I apparently need to launch, and how many master classes, how many free, like, I have this long list, and then I have to sit there with it. And I'm like, Autumn, do you really want to do any of these fucking things? No, you don't. It's just this, you feel this energy and this, needing to kind of fit in with other people. So anyways, digressing. Cats, sorry, I'm totally distracted by my cats jumping around behind me. But you were bringing up this. I actually love that you mentioned the year. Like, it actually took me a year to feel good. Like, it took me a year to actually feel like, all right, like, I'm fucking doing this. Like, look at me. This is amazing. I'm in my power and standing strong in that, because it speaks to this compounded courage. Like, it speaks to what compounds over time. And again, there's this notion sometimes that it's like a one-hit wonder. Like, you do it one time and it's all good. And yes, you're going to feel more confident because you didn't die and like you got through it. But it really does come from like doing it so many fucking times. It wasn't until I think I did like my first 10 episodes of my podcast that I was like, okay, I can do this. Like, I can actually stand in this. So what a testament to show other women who are listening to this, that wherever they're at, even if they have got started or they have maybe a few episodes under their belt, if they're still feeling, whether like whatever it is, podcasts, live videos, programs, like whatever they're doing in their business, even if they've done a few of them, like, it's okay if they're not feeling like fully in their power yet. Like, nothing's wrong. Nothing's off with necessarily what they're doing or how they're serving. It is possible to heal others while you're healing yourself. And you can have these coexists together in a way that works for you. Because I definitely think that there's this feeling and this judgment, and a lot of people carry that of like, I need to be somewhere else before I'm ready. And I think being able to show you guys and have you speak to that and have this incredible business where both of you are in totally different places. And it did take compounding that courage and that confidence over a long period of time to be able to bring you to where you are, like, just fucking beautiful. So beautiful. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're so welcome.
So, okay, there was something that was coming up because I know I pay attention to your guys' stuff. Like, I pay attention to all the things and all the luscious vibes. And you guys bring like the moon and like lunar cycles and manifestation and like spiritual support and spiritual tools into your business a lot. And I love manifestation. I love all that. But like the moon and the lunar cycles is still something that I haven't quite leveraged. Like, I've learned about it. One of my clients is like huge into utilizing this in her business, but it's not something that I've completely leveraged. And I'm going to blame part of it on like the first, my little one's 9 months. So I'm going to blame that. Just been a hot mess, mom. And I'm just getting my shit together. But how did this come to start? Like, what brought this part into your business, and how did this become like such a big tool for you guys to like have this foundation and support for how you guys coach and just, you know, share your message and teaching in the world?
That is a really good question. And so I was born under a full moon in Cancer, way back in the day, many moons ago. My name from day one has been Betsy Moon. Am I totally frozen, by the way? Or can you hear me? Oh, there you are. Okay. Sorry. I froze for a second. Okay. So my nickname growing up was always Betsy Moon, and I was obsessed. Like, my mom wrote books about Betsy Moon, and I did the Milky Way, and the stars were my friend. The moon was my guide, whatever. And so I grew up believing that the moon protected me and was completely connected to the moon. Interestingly, I will go back and look at life events and figure out like what stage the moon was in. And like, I can line up things with full moons, and I know when all the big things happened. And so about a year ago, I was going through a really deep healing process from the trauma that Laura mentioned before. And I decided, as I was doing that healing process with like the new moon and the full moon, I really wanted to bring that energy into the business and start using the moon, because it's an energy keeper. It's like a calendar, but it's also like a clock for your energy. I really wanted to bring that into the business and stop pushing all the time. We launched this hustle for about 3 months, like knee-deep in hustle. Back then, hustle was like go, go, go. Whereas now hustle is like this energy strategy to me. And so we started using the moon in the business, and it was like, we went from being just completely stagnant to like tripling our money in the first month, like our income, leaning into the phases. And so we were like, we're on something. And I was like, well, I want to teach this now, because I know it inside and out. So like, let's teach this now. And yeah, so Moon God was created and put out into the world in the most Betsy way possible. And yeah, it's still a tool we use. So it's just a manifestation of 40 years staring up at the sky, really. Trying to figure out. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, I didn't know, Laura, if you were popping in on that at all, but because it was a little bit choppy, but I think we got the majority of what you were saying. And I just freaking love your story. Like, I obviously need to get me some of this moon magic.
Well, you know, it's like, so Betsy started working with the moon, like she said, for her own personal healing. And then we did start bringing it into the business, like as an energy and a timekeeper, but also, you know, I mean, we do things like we launch by the moon. Right? Like, we do really strategic things like planning out sales, planning out launches, doing different activities in the business based on the lunar cycles. And, you know, that really came from a place of wanting to help women, first of all, tune back into themselves better, which a moon is an incredible tool for helping you tune back into yourself and your intuition, because that really is the essence of being able to sell well and build a brand and call in and receive a lot of money. And that is where we see a lot of women tripping up. And that's what we spend a lot of time teaching on, is like people have this idea and then they don't know how to pitch it. They don't know how to market it. They don't know how to sell it. Selling feels scary and icky and salesy and gross and very wounded masculine. And so it's like, well, how do we allow you to feel and be in your feminine, be in that really luscious divine space where you're just being your regular old authentic self and still be able to sell and do it well, and like plan that launch that program, launch that course or that that product and just feel completely in alignment. And also because a lot of our women are moms, like they're busy, and energy and time are like always crunched. So it's like, well, how can we make the most of that? You don't have to be pushing and hustling all the time. And for me too, again, like being so passionate about women and elevating women, wanting them to see them rise and have more money and influence and power in the world. The business world was created by men for men, right? And men's bodies work on a 24-hour clock. So they spend their energy and recharge every 24 hours and away they go. And that's how the business world was developed. But women's bodies, we operate on a 28-day cycle. So that was important for us to help women understand and help them engineer their businesses around that, because, it's okay to have a day where you just feel slow and you just want to take some time for you. You don't have to be pushing and hustling the same way a man might hustle on the daily. And then there will be other days where it is a masculine phase. You are feeling more energy, more fired up, and you can get way more accomplished on that day and feel good about it. So it was really about reverse engineering what women want and allowing them to step into their divine feminine and be able to sell really authentically. So it's been amazing.
This is so juicy. Okay, so for real, I'm so here for this. So okay, maybe it's just me being nosy, but if it's other people too, and they're listening to this and they're like, okay, how do I sync up, or what is at least a tip? Because obviously how is of course the how, right? That is a longer drawn out probably system that you guys teach and work with. But what's maybe a first tip or something that they can maybe walk away with, or even I can walk away with on launching with the moon and kind of tying your sales and things with the moon and with those cycles? Is it the full moon, the intentions, and being able to release and surrender? Is that the part of it, or am I totally off course?
Oh, you're on. You get the gist. It's really an extension kind of the typical new moon, full moon manifesting. I think that's a really great place to start. So when you think about energetics, the new moon is about going in deeper. So the new moon to us is a start of the cycle. So that's when you're going to start planning what it is you're trying to create. And then if you're using the lunar cycle, we always like to say sometimes the development stage is a couple lunar cycles, right? You're not just going to launch in 28 days. But if the idea is really clear, the energy of the new moon, if you do the energy of the full moon, if you're doing intention setting, is to release go of something. It's the same idea when you're launching in your business. You would release, put out into the world the thing you're trying to sell. And then the waxing, the waning side of the moon is really the receiving side. So think about the energetics. Waxing is the buildup, and then you're releasing and you're putting it out into the world. And then each phase between each holds its own special energy and allows us to flip back and forth from our masculine and feminine to really put something out there that's true in alignment. I don't know what's up with my internet. I apologize.
I think the only other thing I would add is the second half of the lunar phase is the releasing side, but it's also the receiving side. And whereas the waxing side, the front half of the cycle, is your growth, where you're growing. And so it's important for it, just metaphorically, creating an analogy for your business, it's important to just tap into that piece as well. Because we often get suckered when we, again, have FOMO, and we're suckered into looking at what everyone else is doing. It can often seem like everybody's selling something all the time. They're just selling. And it's important to understand that there are seasons within your business. There are seasons where we're stretching and growing, and that's there for a purpose. You don't get to full moon without going through the waxing stage first. You have to build up to it and then release something. And I think that helps us slow down and honor the time and the time and space of where we're at in our business, and not feel that we need to rush ahead. And I know we just talked about taking bold, messy action, but there's a difference between taking messy action that's aligned and versus trying to do 100 different things at once because that's what you think you should, and then trying to force things to happen instead of taking a beat and be like, okay, well, what's really in alignment for me? What intention am I setting here with creating this podcast, releasing this program, launching this new brand, starting a different Instagram handle, etc. Like, what's the intention? And honoring that there is a growth phase. That's a question we get all the time. People will be really frustrated. Like, I don't have 10,000 followers on Instagram yet. Like, oh, fuck. Enough with this. Enough. Like, swipe up is nice, but it's not the end of the world. Like, and just like, and I think there's, something that I really want to see in that as well is that, okay, so you have 500 followers on Instagram, right? And that doesn't feel like a very big number because there's lots of influencers and bosses on social media that have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers. But honor that, okay, there's 500 people following you. Those are 500, hopefully real people, not just bots, but they're real people who are listening and chose to follow you, and honor that. And you're in a growth phase in your business. And I think that's really important in the beginning. I know that was a really important lesson for me because I'm a generator and I love to go, go, go. And I just want to get there already. And I needed to learn to slow down and be patient and honor that, like, we're in a season now. So love it. And then your receiving time will come, because it does come every month.
Mm-hmm.
So freaking good, you guys. I just can't even, every part of it. I'm like, yes. Okay. So is there anything that's coming up that we need to know about in the moons and the cycles and the things that are like upon us? Or are we like, because I know we're in Leo, right? We're in Leo. Mm-hmm. So is this like holding a certain power that everybody that's listening should know or could leverage something with in this?
Well, I'm a Leo, and
she's a Leo.
I would say, so Leo is very fierce, and she does work very hard, but it's important to remember, like, I always think of like, well, what do lions do in the wild? Like, what do they actually do? The mama lions, like, they have a lot of responsibility. They're very fierce. They raise their babies. They do all the hunting. So yes, they work very hard, but they actually spend a lot of their day laying around. Like, they're not always hustling. And Leo, she actually is supposed to have fun. She's supposed to lean into that luxuriousness and that lusciousness, I think. And that's always a lesson that I need to take away from myself. It can be easy for me to take on that lioness energy and think that it has to be all fierce and all strong and all powerful. And she is all the time, but it doesn't always have to be just the hustle all the time. It can be in the luscious lifestyle. What are you doing to have fun and embody that, and trust that just by doing that, being in that lusciousness will help you, like, attract and receive the people and the things that you want. I don't know if Betsy would add anything to that, but yeah.
I love that. I love that. Sorry, Betsy, I think you're frozen, so I'm not sure if you're going to jump in at all, but I'll just speak to it in case. Oh, there you are.
I live rural area of Pennsylvania, and I'm actually doing this on cell, and it's still not going. So I apologize. Internet is not fun. The only thing I would add to that is when it comes to full moon and new moons. So Leo, right now we're going into, this is the new moon. So new moons happen in the actual signs. And then the full moon is like 6 months from now. So there's always this 6-month cycle that's going on. So I know lots of people come to us and they're like, I want to manifest something this month and I'm using this energy. And I'm like, okay, great, go for it. Right. And then, but also in the back of your mind, I want you to keep like steadfast to the fact that some things take time to manifest, right? Like, you don't manifest a house in a single lunar cycle, but what you can do is you can set the intention and then do the work and start taking micro actions to get you towards that bigger goal. So if you want to buy a house, let's say, this is a really good example because a house is like a really big purchase, but you have no savings, so you have no job. Where do you start? The first lunar cycle is like, find a job. Second lunar cycle, start saving money, right? And so there's all these steps that you can go out, but really understanding that there's 6 months. So the big things that you set as your intentions in the new moon, giving yourself the time and space to actually manifest them fully. It's probably going to take 6 months. It could take a year, but there's always this sort of like time moves really weird for me now because we do so much with the moon. Like, it like collapses on itself all the time, and it doesn't feel so long. Like, I don't feel like I'm waiting so long for stuff to happen. Even though it takes time for things to manifest, it still feels really in alignment. So the more you work with the moon, the more time collapses. So
I'm obsessed. I need to like go back and listen to this episode. I'm going to bring more of this into my business. I'm so fascinated. Like, I know like it exists and it's there and it's like things that I'll think about and I see it out, but there's part of like that rebel in me, I think, to some degree. And it's like, everybody's in with the moon. And so I had like this pushback for a little while. Not that I fully believe in it, but there was like this implementation part that, I wasn't able to like bring in quite yet, like this integration, but I love it and I feel it and I get it. And it makes so much sense with the power of like the energetics of the moon and these cycles and just how our bodies and everything is just synced up. Because you think about it, like there was a time when none of the world, like how the world is right now with technology, you know, like this didn't exist. These are all just like beautiful tools now that we have. But there was a time when that was our probably what's the word, like our navigation system. That was how we were led. So that makes so much sense.
For a long time, like if you go back historically, like we, as a society, before the Gregorian calendar, which is the one that we use, there was a lunar calendar. And even in today's modern age, so, I mean, you're going to get me started on the patriarchy and I don't really want to go down this road, but like basically what happened is in history, when the Romans came along, at the beginning of the Roman Empire, you see that they still had a lot of like the female deities and people were honoring multiple gods. But by the end of it, as the Pope and the Catholic Church began to take root, what they decided was that it needed to be one story. So you look at how the Bible has progressed. Well, the lunar calendar went away as the Gregorian calendar took over. And what's interesting is, you know, like Judaism is still based on a lunar calendar. I believe like Islam has something to do with the lunar calendar. Even Easter is a lunar holiday, even though that's why it changes every year in our calendar, because it is coinciding with, I think it's like, I don't know, the first full moon or first new moon after something, like in whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what it is. Even the Chinese calendar, like their Chinese New Year's is based on their lunar calendar. So it's really fast. Yeah. So it's really fascinating how things, you know, coexist like with our calendar and the lunar calendar. But for a really long time, I mean, it was more than just navigation. It was a clock. It was the calendar. It was the guiding force. And, you know, I think the moon for a long time got a bad rap and they tried to make it like only witches look at the moon and drawing down the moon. And, you know, there's a lot of history there of the patriarchy trying to take it away because it is associated with the goddess. It is associated with women. It is so associated with multiple gods, and multiple gods don't make money, right? And so that's like how the church controlled everybody, was with money and making it one system. So it's really fascinating when you dive into the history of the moon. I mean, clearly I have a little bit of a passion for it. But it's really interesting how it's coexisted for such a long time. It's just like, how do we tap into that? And there's so many layers. Like we teach it for business specifically. Like you're not going to learn about what every single sign means and how to tap into it and what it has to do. Like your rising sign and your moon sign, like those are your moon sign rules your emotions. So like how are you showing up in business? Like look at your moon sign. That's your emotional side, the side you're trying to hide. That's typically the biggest block that you feel in your business. Mm-hmm. So there's always things that we can glean and learn from it. But yes, there's a lot of information to process. And I just like saying to people, like, find the stuff that works for you. Right? Like I have a system. I know it works. We teach it because we know it works, but it's very different from what everybody else is teaching. And so it's kind of like, you know, what is it that you want to do with the moon? And then find that and sink into that. Because there's so many layers to it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could talk about this all day. I'm sorry. I'll just shut up now.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I've been saying this a lot lately, but I feel like, okay, like another episode is going to be like needing in the future to dive into deeper on this, because there's so much that you could probably go into on all these different topics, but it makes so much sense. So thank you so much for just sharing all your wisdom in this, because I can just feel like your passion around this, like oozing out of you. It's so cool. Okay. Let's take like a little bit of a turn for us nosy entrepreneurs or us nosy babes. I'm curious what, like, because I think that the people that are listening, and maybe I'm assuming for you peoples out there listening, but I feel like the humans are kind of curious, like, what does a life or a day in the life of an entrepreneur actually look like? So I'm kind of getting more passionate about actually asking entrepreneurs, like, what does your day like look like? Like obviously every day is so different, but what does kind of like an average day look like, especially like as a team who doesn't even live anywhere near each other? How does that play out?
It's a really good question. Well, ours has changed a lot because we used to have zero boundaries. We had no boundaries around time. We would say yes to anything at any time, damn near 7 days a week. It was really bad. And so, part of us working with the moon, working on ourselves, working with our human designs. I'm a generator. Betsy's a projector. So projectors are special because they are actually only supposed to work about like 2 to 5 hours a day tops.
We're both just like, yep.
You're like, yep. And if a projector works more than 5 hours, like she has to take the whole rest of the next day off, like just blank it out of the calendar. So it took us time to figure out like, to grow in our sense of authority in setting boundaries for ourselves around like what we will and will not do, and trusting that people will still come. People will still hire us. We will still fill out our programs. It's all going to happen. So, and also I have a daughter, so there's boundaries there. Like I need to have time with her. I need to be able to be flexible if we have a sick day or whatever stuff comes up. So, right now our technical business hours are Monday to Friday, but we really only take calls Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then Monday and Fridays are open. And that feels really, really good for us. And we are getting really, really good at blocking out chunks of time and having like integration weeks and things planned out in our calendar because it's just necessary. We really got, and this is something that I will share for like newer entrepreneurs. There's the difference between like working in your business versus working on your business. So working in your business is like client calls and doing the things in your business, selling your product, whatever. But then working on your business is like, it's the back end stuff. It's the stuff on working on you as a leader, but also just all the back end pieces that make the business flow smoothly and allow you to have that time freedom and that space. And in the beginning, we were all in the business and there was no working on the business. And so that was a big shift, a really important one. And knowing just sort of, different, like the different archetypes and things that we use for ourselves now. It's like, what role am I embodying right now in my business? Am I spending too much time there? Do I need to spend time doing something else?
Yeah. Yeah. And for me as a projector, it has not been easy. Like I come from the New York City life. Like I spent 12 years just nonstop go. And the reality of it is it forced, like I had a health crisis, which is why I left New York City in the first place. But then old habits die hard. And like I'm 40. So you can imagine like reprogramming in the last 2 years, like at 38 deciding, holy shit, this isn't working. We need to totally scratch everything that I know and then like rewire my brain so that it's okay for me to take a nap if I need a nap. It's okay for me to schedule a day off. Like Fridays, it's so funny. Every time we try to schedule something for Friday, I'm a mess. Like I'm literally like, I just can't do this. Like I'm not taking on anybody's energy. Like, I mean, we've had even when I've been up in Calgary for a month, like there was one Friday I got to her house and I was like, I'm just going to sit in the recliner for the next like 5 hours. Like, like, no. So, really learning how to honor my energy has been a really massive shift in our business too. And it actually allows me to show up at a way higher level than I even knew I was capable of. And so for anybody that's listening to this, there are seasons. Like, listen, you do have to hustle in the beginning. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, if you're starting a business, you can get away with 2 hours of work a day. Like, I don't actually believe that. Like, I think that there's seasons, right? And you need to get clear and you need to sink into like what's happening in your business. I think our hustle allowed us to step into this and like really integrate it, not just like piecemeal it together. This was like total integration from day one because we'd had that experience and we knew, and we did it early enough that it made a substantial trajectory change in our business. But there's still work that has to be done. Like you can't, like I will never use my projector title as an excuse not to do something. Mm-hmm. It's just learning how to balance harmonize my boundaries with the work that I want to do in this world and plan it accordingly. And so That's where
it's something that takes, it's like a garden. Like, you have to tend it constantly. Like, yes, we've figured out what works for us and what doesn't, but we still have to sort of mind ourselves and constantly be mindful and like notice if we're falling out of check, like, oh, just correct a little bit and come back on course. And that will always happen over time. And I think also just like with the energetics and the emotions of like starting a new business, there's a lot of up and downs, right? That entrepreneurial emotional roller coaster. And we were suckers for it in the beginning, right? If we would plummet, we would freak, and then we would have to hustle
Step
more,
back.
And swing back up. And there was a lot of that happening. But over time, the entrepreneurial roller coaster doesn't go away. You're always on it. Once, like, we actually had a student, I say that to one time. She's like, when am I going to get off this entrepreneurial roller coaster? I'm like, honey, you're on it for life now. This is the roller coaster that never lets you off.
Buckle the fuck up.
But buckle the fuck up. But, like, my favorite analogy, and this is a good one for your listeners, like, if you go on YouTube and type in James Corden, Selena Gomez roller coaster, because how he does that like carpool karaoke thing, but there's an episode where they do a roller coaster together, and it is the most perfect analogy for a newbie entrepreneur and an experienced entrepreneur, because James Corden is on this roller coaster and he's just like gripping the seat for his life and like screaming, and there's like just fear on his face. You think he's going to throw up. That's a new entrepreneur. You're just like holding on for dear life and riding. Then there's Selena Gomez sitting right next to him, and she's just like singing away and on her arms in the air and like rocking out. And like they get to the end of the roller coaster and she's like, "Woo, let's do that again," And that's it. Like, that is it. The experienced CEO, you're still on the same roller coaster. You've learned how to manage your time and your energy and your boundaries so much better, so that when you plummet towards the earth, you're like, all right, here we go. I know I'm going to come back up. And that's just the best analogy I've ever come up with for that roller coaster experience. It is a roller coaster.
I love that analogy, and I'm probably going to steal it because it was so good. No, but it's because it's perfect. Like, it's a perfect example of like the two versions side by side. And I love that you also spoke on, like that projector part of it, and the couple hours a day and having these seasons, because it's like there is this notion of, I'll just get in. Since we're on like the fair ride thing, like the exhibition type thing, right? We'll keep going. It's like you get into that slingshot thing and you just like fly right over, right? I'm ever getting on one of those. It won't happen. But it's like you get in that and people just want to like jump right over to the end, or be the Selena Gomez the first time that they ever get onto the roller coaster. And the reality is that like, if you've never been there, you've never rode it, like, you're never going to be able to experience that. You're never going to know what it's going to turn out like or how it's going to feel. And that slingshot over to that end where it all feels like easy and fun. And it's not that we don't have moments still in our businesses where we're like, oh, holy shit, and we get scared or we get uncomfortable or there's something difficult that comes up. It's that you just get really good at navigating it because you've been able to see that you've done it before. And I just see so much that there's this like period of time, and I don't know if it's the confusion in like what feminine energy is or goddess or flow, or like I don't know if there's like a confusion out there sometimes with people and like what that means in their business, balancing with the masculine and like what feels good to do and what doesn't feel good to do, and showing up for those activities in your biz. But I completely resonate with this. It's like that hustle. And it's so funny that we're talking my first business, my health and wellness team that I had, and then my boyfriend and my private personal training fitness business was Heart and Hustle. And so that was such a big part of it, was like I prided myself on this hustle. And I definitely believe there's a better way to do it now, but I completely resonate with at the beginning having that like just all in, you're going, and you don't really have a good schedule. You don't know how to time block. You don't know how to have boundaries. You don't know how to take days off. You have a lot of that guilt and shame and like fear. Like, what if I step away? What if I'm not controlling all of the pieces and making them work in my favor? How is it going to happen for me then? And I think it's so important that they're also hearing this from you, and they're seeing that if you're in that season, just like buckle up, like you're going to get there in your own way, in your own time. And I think as you continue to work with like coaches, and maybe you can speak to this, but like, as you continue to work with coaches, find the right programs and find what works for you. Like eventually you're going to go from like James Corden to Selena Gomez, but their only way to do it is to get on the roller coaster and just, to buckle up and know you're going to get there one day.
Yeah. I think what it goes back to, you mentioned divine feminine and masculine. So I'll just speak on that really quickly. I mean, that's like another deep dive conversation. But interestingly, like Laura's more masculine and I am more feminine. When we figured that out, I was like, fuck no, I'm a New Yorker. I am like as masculine as they come. I just want to hustle. And so I think what it really boils down to, it's nurture over nature, right? So we each have our own. I can be masculine. I'm more feminine. Laura can be feminine. She's more masculine in our business. Like that's just the play that we have with each other. But I think we are nurtured, all of us, thank you, patriarchy, to be masculine, right? Like we work in, like Laura was saying before, men work on a 24-hour cycle. That's why the stock market is on a 24-hour cycle. That's why it's Monday through Friday. Like men have the ability to work within the system that was created that creates all this money. Okay, great. So how do we as women then tap back into our inner divine goddess, feminine energy, divine energy source, whatever you want to call it? And that really is doing the exact opposite of what we're told in business school, in college, growing up in high school. Like all the classes, it's like, this is how you get where you are by going from point A to point B. Whereas the divine feminine is like, okay, I see you point B, but we're going to kind of like meander through the garden, right? And we're going to twist and turn, and it's not a straight line. And so where women are getting stuck on like, what is the how is the masculine, right? Like it is like point A, point B. Whereas the feminine wants to explore. And how do we explore? We follow our intuition. You can call it your gut, you can call it your heart, you can call it your soul, whatever you want to do. But there's always that little voice inside your head that is like steering you. And so we always say to our girls, like, what feels good to you right now? 9 times out of 10, building a funnel does not feel good to anybody. There's a time and a place to do it. But, we get lots of people that come to us and, when you're scaling to 6 figures, like first thing, I need a funnel. Okay. Do you have a No. Okay. So like, let's just like dial into like, what's your heart saying right now? And we know lots of entrepreneurs that have 6-figure businesses that don't even have a website. They don't have a funnel. Like you don't need those things. You think you do because that's what we've been told. That's the nurture, right? Society has nurtured us, where in our divine state, our innate nature is that we can lead from our heart and we can serve from a place of abundance. And that's actually the feminine. And you just have to tap back into it. It's like you have to reawaken her. And when you do that, it's pretty powerful.
Well, I freaking love this. Like I've loved every single thing that's come out of your mouth, but and I feel like I keep saying it over and over again, but I agree. And I love how you worded that and viewed that. And I really hope, and actually, no, I don't hope, I know that will give a lot of clarity to our listeners who are kind of sitting there and wondering, okay, I love this, but like, how do I know, like, how to like dance around in both for the people that are probably still beginning and maybe have only dabbled in, or maybe finding just like a little confusion in that space. But before we split, and I love that you guys mentioned this earlier about celebration. I love to find out, and I love to hold space for celebration because we pass this way too fast, and it's something that we don't do. And I'm sure you guys can completely relate to this when it comes to like the hustle, is especially at the beginning of businesses, and even not even just the beginning, but even in a long-term game, it's like we're so caught up in what we're creating next and what we're doing next and what to accomplish in the next post and who we need to catch up with. Like there's so many pieces that are moving all of the time. And I know that for me, there was such a period of time where I didn't feel ready to celebrate because it wasn't as big as it could be. And so I love being able to create this space where it gives this reminder to whoever's listening to celebrate, to be able to own what they're doing and what they've just accomplished or who they've been to do the thing that they did. And also giving them so many different levels and like ways of what to celebrate and what it looks like for different people. So then when they're going to say, okay, like, how do I celebrate my accomplishments? They have all these amazing women to look at in all these different ways that they have been celebrating and have celebrated things before, so they can kind of see themselves in you. So with that being said, what are you guys celebrating?
Oh my gosh. There's, what are we celebrating? There's a lot of things, Betsy. I want to celebrate that I'm really excited about our upcoming mastermind retreat with our girls. We love our students so much, and they live all over North America. And it's been months. I'm dying to squeeze them. I just want to squeeze their bodies because I love them so much. We really, really fall in love with our students. I'm celebrating that I'm a single mom and I'm starting a rocket, and it feels really good. And I'm celebrating that. Oh my God, so great. I was grateful before, but I'm like buttloads more grateful now that we actually started this business, that we had enough chutzpah to just do the damn thing, because having my own money and having my own business and having a business partner like Betsy is actually what enabled me to leave a bad marriage and step out on my own and do it with power and integrity and not be scared and not be in my wounded. I think that is, I'm seeing, it's funny, when things happen to you and then you share your story and then all of a sudden like the floodgates open, like when Betsy shared her story of trauma on the podcast, we were like flooded with people like, me too. And that's what started happening to me. I've started to share quietly that, I've separated and I'm out on my own now, and how strong and happy I feel in that decision. And there's just all these women who are like, oh my God, me too. Like, and I love that. I love that. That's what I want to celebrate. Like, I did it. I'm independent. I have this business that I'm running. I'm making money. I'm supporting women to make money. I'm doing it as a single mom raising a daughter. Like, that feels really, really good.
Mm-hmm. Fuck yeah. I got the goosies. Did you see that? I totally got the goosies.
Oh my gosh. I'm celebrating all that, but it's funny you asked that question. And so I'm going to give a really out of the box answer right now, just because I feel like this is a really good example. So part of our business, like the second half of this year, I'm basically traveling like the entire second half of this year. Like, it starts next week and I am like somewhere every freaking month. And one of the things that we wanted to do in our business was run a second retreat. And so, on paper, like this is a really great example of the divine feminine and honoring your energy and what you're putting into your business. So we were logistically like pulling our hair out. We wanted to serve from a place of generosity and like do this event that would be incredibly powerful. But the schedule didn't line up. So I'm celebrating the fact that we actually came up with a way to get the message out there without actually having to do the retreat. And in many ways, we're going to be able to honor our audience and honor our tribe on a much deeper level, doing something completely outside the box than running a retreat that would only help like 15 people. And so to me, that is a huge, massive shift in our business. And I know I'm being like very vague about what we're doing. You'll see if you follow us on Luscious Hustle, what that's going to look like. But just having the balls to not get so hyper focused on like, this is the way that this is going to work.
On the how.
Yeah. Right. And it's like, okay, what is the outcome that I'm seeking? How else can I do this outside the box? So that to me is a huge win for us in the business, because I actually now see we can help more people doing it with, yes, of course I want to run another retreat where anybody can come, but like, it doesn't make sense for us in our business right now. So it's like honoring the business first, honoring our energy first. And then because we're doing that, we can serve at such a higher level for our people and have greater transformation. Like, that actually makes me super excited. So that's let go of the how, ladies.
You're still on the roller coaster. We still have to learn how to let go of the how, like every day. It never gets old.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm like going to be over here refreshing the feed. Like, I need all the details. Tell me, I need to know. Oh, what a beautiful reminder and explanation and example. Both of them. Like, these are both just beautiful, different levels of celebration. And I'm fucking celebrating the shit out of both of you, because that is phenomenal recognition, awareness, power, like all of the Leo vibes, all of that fierceness. I'm feeling it and I'm honoring it in both of you. And I just thank you so much for sharing it and being so open and vulnerable and transparent and giving so much to our listeners. And I just want to thank you both for being here and for sharing your time and your energy. And thank you guys for listening, and can't wait to see you in the next episode. And P.S. before we leave, where can they find you? It's going to be in the show notes, but in case anybody doesn't know how to swipe up or forget, where can they find you?
You can find us at luscioushustle.com, and probably we hang out most frequently on Instagram, and we are luscious.hustle on Instagram.
Yep.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. Well, thank you again so much for being here, and see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.